everybody. That's right. It's your woman on the move, Osiris, here with 15 minutes to show. Guess where we are? We are in beautiful Topanga Canyon. It is gorgeous up here. Too bad you guys aren't here to enjoy. However, our guest for today in studio is one of my favorite guys. I have to say, okay, I'm not being biased. I'm just saying he is one of the fave. He goes on the fave hard heart list. John Zeretzke, aka Jay Z. I call him Zeretz. So, John, wow. John is the founder and creator of a program called Flutes Across the World. And just to let you know a little bit about what that means, I want to start off the show a little bit different. So I want to have John do a little bit on some of the flutes. We're going to talk about where they came from, his program, about their mission, and why he does what he does. So, John, say hey.
Hey, Osiris. Good to be here. It's been a while.
Oh, yeah.
But since you wanted to hear some flute right off the bat, and for our listeners too, we'll start out with a traditional flute. Flutes Across the World supports indigenous instruments from around the world. A lot of these are being lost. So this is for your listeners. This is a traditional Hawaiian nose flute. They're played with the nose. And the legend from Hawaii and from different cultures is that nose flutes are an ancient instrument that are sacred because the air from the nose is more pure than the air from the mouth because it doesn't mix with words.
Unbelievable. What a tidbit of great information. Here we go, folks.
Pure nose flute. This one is Hawaiian, made by Anthony Natividad. You don't have to get too close. This one sounds nice.
Oh my, talk about the pure essence of sound, and that little thing makes all that strong sound like that.
Yeah, isn't it great? And this is just a little piece of bamboo.
Now, did you make this yourself?
No, this one's very, very special. This one actually was made by Anthony Natividad, one of the great flute players of the Hawaiian Islands. He was half Filipino from his mother and half Hawaiian from his father from Maui. And he brought these back, or helped to bring them back, almost from extinction. Very few makers were left, and Anthony started to popularize these flutes again. He made this one. He played this one for over 12, 13 years in sacred ceremonies all through the Hawaiian Islands. It was his best flute, and the last time I saw him in Hawaii, saying goodbye to he and his wife, he reached in his pocket, and he pulled it out, and he goes, "Here, this is yours." And I said, "Something tells me this is a really special flute." He goes, "Yeah, it's my favorite flute, but you need to have it." 2 months later, I was talking to Anthony in email, and we were planning another residency with the children in Molokai in Hawaii, and Anthony passed away of a heart attack.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. We're sorry to hear that.
This flute was meant to
for you to go to be passed on, to keep his vibration alive. So just to let the audience know a little bit about John's background, we won't go to way back, but we'll bring it up a little bit up to current state. John came out of Broadway. You were scoring for...
not so much Broadway as the studios and composing here in Hollywood and L.A.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you eventually got into, you started as a musician, is that correct?
I started as classical violinist and then worked as music director for the Amon Folk Ensemble based here in L.A. I was with them for 13 years, touring the world, working with traditional dance and music from around the world. It's kind of pre-world music, and that's how I got involved with so many instruments from around the world and collecting rare and unusual instruments.
And I know that many years ago, when I first met you, I know that you came to me through a mutual connection. You were doing some band stuff. You were doing Flutes Across the World, but it hadn't really taken as much of a dynamic form and shape as it has recently, with you traveling so much in all the different countries. I know, just to let you guys know, this guy is responsible for taking these flutes into war-torn areas. Delivering them in medical boxes and stuff. I want you to tell people some of the kind of dangers and things that you have to encounter when you are doing this program and going to some of these very cultural and rural areas.
It actually officially started about 8.5 years ago, but it came out of educational work I've been doing in the schools for over 30-some years.
Now, is that the Knightsbridge Foundation?
That was the first mission I teamed with Sir Edward Artis, but we haven't worked with him in some time. We've gone independent. We partner with Rotary groups from around the world, Rotary International. We partnered with a lot of other on-the-ground humanitarian nonprofit
organization.
So we formed our nonprofit about 7 years ago. And we've been in Haiti, Nepal, Latin America. We've done numerous missions to Honduras. This will be our 7th music mission, not religious, but it's art and education in music. And this will be our 7th trip to the Philippines. So we're taking over 1,500 flutes made by American kids. So the idea of the program is very simple, and your listeners will get this. Kids make 2 flutes. We make them out of PVC plastic pipe. So they start out like this, a little chunk of PVC plastic pipe from Home Depot.
Oh, wow.
Then they're
Home Depot.
Yeah, they're drilled, and we have new mouthpieces. We just received this one last night from China. This is our sample, and we're producing these now in China. We designed them, and we have a copyright on them for our flutes, and they sound like this. A little chunk of
Let's
pipe.
hear it.
Nice little tone.
Now, what is it about the flute that made you do flutes rather than guitars or organs or anything?
It's a kind of universal idea. In every culture, you find different flutes, different wind instruments. So we thought by connecting to that idea, we can easily access kids' learning through the flutes. And there's so many mythologies around flutes. So here's 2 of our flutes that are decorated by our kids. 2 flutes, and each flute has a photo of the person who made the flute in residencies and classrooms around America. So they make 2 flutes, one to keep and one to give away. These are the giver flutes. So at the end of the residency of the program, these kids will give me this flute, and they go home with their own flute that's all decorated. We learn patterns and designs from around the world from different cultures, so kids are learning about other cultures and histories around the world. That's opening up their minds in something that is real and tangible.
And exposing them to things that they may normally not get exposed to. Now, what constitutes who gets to be in your program around the world? What constitutes who gets? What kind of areas do you have a certain graph of the areas that you should visit, or do the areas happen organically during your travels?
When we first started, it was kind of, I was choosing and picking and connections I had. We went into Haiti, and I had certain connections that I found there, and I worked with Restavik, basically kids who are in almost slavery-like conditions. Restaviks are in Haiti. So I connected with a woman from Connecticut who ran that program, and someone else, Ralph Matthey from Missouri, who runs the educational program. But we started to focus more on the Philippines in the last 3-4 years because I had good contacts there, and we wanted to develop the program more. We're actually going to, this year, start out with, we have their own jigs, and they're going to start drilling and doing their own program from the Philippines. So we're trying to give Flutes Across the World away. Schools here have to buy the program in order for us to do it, so it employs artists and educators to go out in the schools, like myself, and teach the program. But we're also going to have teacher kits this year, where they can buy a kit, and they can
kind of
classroom. Yeah, and then the half of the flutes in the classroom they would package back up, send to us, and we take them on humanitarian missions. We teach kids in other parts of the world that a lot of these kids don't. They have very, very little. In the Philippines, a lot of the children we work with, they get about a meal and a half a day on average to what we go through. And our learning here is great with these kids because they get to really understand what it's like to be a child in another part of the world. We show them pictures of classrooms where we've been in, dirt floors, garbage dumps I've worked in. I've worked in orphanages, hospitals. And so kids here get a real idea what it's like to be a child in another part of the world. And so they're reaching out, giving a flute to someone, and the receiving part is where these kids are so excited to receive these flutes, get instruction on the flutes. We have a new passport program where they get a little folded passport
That's cute.
to travel the world and mark off tunes they learn. So we right now, this next trip, will have over 35 volunteers in the Philippines that'll be implementing the program in the schools and in orphanages.
Now, is this the trip that involves? I know you're excited, and we're excited to talk about your relationship or doing something with the well-known or well-known Filipino artist Kublai Milan, who is you. You guys are doing a program together, or how does that tie in with your Flutes Across the World?
Kublai last time through the editor of the Davao Star when I was in Mindanao. And Stella introduced me and said, there's somebody you have to meet, a friend of mine. And I went to his house, and he has a beautiful house out of Davao in the hills. And I pulled out nose flute, and I pulled out some pictures that were donated to Flutes Across the World from Mindanao from the 1960s that no one had ever seen. Kublai looked at me and went, where did you come from? This guy from California shows up with these old photos from the 1960s.
Do we have any of those photos to show? Can we look at them?
I showed Kublai some of these photos, and we're bringing these to the Philippines this next trip. These are photos from the collection of Fred Maranello, who was living and working in the Philippines in the mid-60s and in Mindanao. And where the Marawi conflict is right now, that's where Fred was. He was one of the first Americans to be a teacher in that part of the world. So Fred donated all these images to Flutes Across the World to use, and Kublai is going to be in charge of doing an art installation with these photographs in Davao for the first time. It's going to be called Mindanao Once.
So that's a big, big deal for them.
It's a big opening. We'll have, as we're doing the Flutes Across the World work over this next month and a half there, we have this opening right in the middle where some of our kids will be playing flutes. I'll play traditional flutes. We'll bring in ensembles. And at the same time, people get to see these rare photographs that have never been seen before of Mindanao in the 1960s.
Simply beautiful.
Some fantastic shots. And
who's the photographer?
Fred Maranello, who's donated over 400 photos to Flutes Across the World. So they're now in our usage that we can use any way we want. And it's a great way to promote indigenous culture, cultural understanding, peace through art and music. And so Kublai is going to be fun to work with because he's already envisioned giant totems 20 feet tall with canvas images of a lot of these ancient images, not ancient, but old images from Mindanao from old days.
You'll have to send us some photos so we can post them and really help get the word out. The other thing I wanted to just to kind of throw in there edgewise is I know that you're a musician, and then you're a musician now working with Flutes Across the World. How does Flutes Across the World keep your own creativity and artistry stimulated?
Boy, that's interesting. It's, I was composing for a long time and
I know. Beautiful stuff, by the way.
Stage and doing all kinds of performance, and I still do that. I still have ensembles. I direct 3 ensembles based out of Los Angeles of master musicians.
And you play I think he plays like over 500 woodwind instruments. I mean, it's bizarre.
Not that many, but
it's a lot.
But I love performing, and I love traditional music, and I love blending ideas too. But flute's been very interesting. It's been a pathway for me that I didn't really expect to open up the way it does. And what happens with this program is that people fall in love with it immediately. You can do the elevator speech, and I can tell somebody about this program in 30 seconds, and they feel like they own it and they want to be a part of it because of what it speaks to our humanity and sense of compassion as human beings. And for me, it's almost been now like a calling that I'm supposed to be doing this.
I would say so. And in knowing you a little bit about your background, I would say so. I would definitely say it's a calling. And you're much like a kid yourself. I mean, you still have this really, happy energy like children would have, still very excited and very, vibrant about life and those kind of things. So, so you get your artistry and your musicianship in there. And then how do you keep an account, or is there any kind of follow-up on the children that you have visited as you go from place to place or country to country?
That's where our volunteer program is coming in, because there's no way I can possibly do follow-up. And so by giving this away, in other words, giving it as the test models we're doing in Mindanao, in Bacolod, we're going to be working in Manila and up in Luzon on the North more, is that by other people taking this program and doing follow-up with it, that's where we're really developing it. So the Filipinos have embraced this and volunteered. I have some people that are so dedicated, Jonah Marcus, Sir Peter Dade, all these people in the Philippines that are really behind this program. So by giving it to them, they're doing up the follow-up. And so I used to do teacher training for LAUSD and for all of Southern California. So I'm training our young volunteers to be those teachers to go up and do the follow-up. So there's this thread of continuum that goes on with these kids.
So, and then I'm supposing the people that you are selecting and the people that are partnering with you are very, very enthusiastic. Are they artists themselves, a lot of them? Are they mostly educators, people like that?
Interesting. They come from a whole different walks of life. Some are young. We're really trying to recruit young people into this.
I can imagine.
So I want to get youth in this. Even with the young flute players, we're recruiting master players. I found a great player in Yogyakarta in Indonesia that I went and met. Novan, who's 23 years old, a brilliant flute player, studying Javanese, Balinese music. So we're trying to get all kinds of people involved in this. Some come from the music field. Some are educators. They're getting their education degree in Davao at Holy Cross. Some are social workers. There are a lot of people in Davao where we're working now come from the social aspect. Some are using the flutes in drug rehab programs, in child abuse programs, in street orphan programs where they're trying to connect with kids to get them to open up, and they do it through the flute and through music.
Now, speaking of, you touched on a key point because I think music therapy is one of those types of movements that is really going to become more and more important. To me, it's a lack of common sense to think that music doesn't affect the brain and how we feel, our emotions, and actually colors a lot of what we perceive as our world. Would you think that's true or no?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it does. It paints our emotions. It can shift your emotions. And so when I go out and work with children and our own teachers, just the sound of the flute, just experience it for a few seconds, whether you're playing it yourself or listening to it, shifts your energy, shifts your mindset. And for a lot of these kids, I'll tell them in my classes here in America, I'll say, maybe you're having a really bad day and you have your keeper flute, the program's ended. Go home and sit on the edge of your bed or out on the porch and play a couple notes. You don't have to be, Paganini or
somebody.
and James Galloway to be, play your flute. Maybe that shifts your emotion a little bit. Maybe your anger disperses. And wouldn't that be a great thing to disperse anger a little bit more in today's world? So that's what we try to impart. The arts and through music is a part of us. It should be a part of our daily life.
Absolutely, it should be. I totally agree. Our show's only 15 minutes, so we're going to have to run. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about in terms of your current projects, which we did talk about Kublai Milan and the Filipino project? What can we expect from Flutes Across the World in the next few years, especially with the current trend of dance and mixing dance and art and music and this whole fusion of everyone that is anybody that is trying to keep peace on this planet is involved in?
Well, we hope we just keep doing what we do and our program expands. We need donations. We need people to help. You can't run programs without money. So,
and where can those donations be?
If you go to Flutes Across the World, we have Facebook. We have 2 pages of Facebook, one Davao, one America. Flutes Across the World Instagram, Flutes Across the World website. And you go right to the website, and there's a donate button. You can hit it, goes right to PayPal, and you can get a tax-deductible donation. We're a 501c3. And any little bit helps. We're still trying to gather some donations for this trip, but we hope to keep expanding this program and basically keep giving it away to youth, to children, to people around the world, and spreading our mission of peace through music.
A giveaway that is a great away. That's a great way to give away the Flutes Across the World. Okay, everybody, it's been fun. It's been real. We like to do it live. And until next time, we're going to say That's a wrap. And we're going to take the show out today with John doing a little bit of piece on one of the flutes. And John, when you be with Zeretzke, when you do this flute, can you explain a little about the flute before we go out so people will know each of the different flutes have different sounds, and let's do different ones.
From Novan, one of the flute players from Indonesia, made this little flute for me. This is one of the great flutes of
And look how
Bali.
beautiful they are.
Very simple, 4 notes, low pentatonic scale.
And the way they sound, though.
Here we go.
Go, bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.